All right, welcome everyone. My name is Bo. I'm with Acelab. We are helping out with hosting today's event presented by Ikon Windows and Doors. So we've got Harper Hoffman here today, who's going to be presenting the AIA portion of today's course. I'm going to give a little quick intro about Acelab and what we do, as well as show you how to get in touch with Ikon directly on Acelab's platform. Give folks a few minutes to join while I do that. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm with Acelab. We provide free non-sponsored product research tools. So our platform is totally free for everyone to use. And here is a little snapshot of our team. So Acelab was started by architects for architects with the belief that we should be spending more time designing and less time trying to call reps or track down products or find products that you've used in projects on the past. So here's kind of a little example of some of the workflow issues that we were working to solve. So just the ability to be able to find the information that you need when you need it, track down product data, and discover new products for your projects. All right, with that, I'm going to jump over to Acelab's site. I'm going to show you really quickly just how to get in touch with the Ikon team after today's webinar. So that's a great way to get in touch with them if you've got any questions about today's presentation or any questions at all about, the products in their line. So once you log into Acelab, you've got this handy dashboard of all of the work that you've been doing. If anybody is interested in learning more about how to use Acelab, feel free to send me an email. My email will be on the slide at the end of this little intro. We've got all our searchable product categories up here. And then what I'm going to show you today is just how to find a manufacturer when you know exactly who you're looking for. So you can always use the search bar at the top, type in the name of any manufacturer. That'll start to auto-populate, and you can just head right over to their page on Acelab. And then to get in touch with them, all you've got to do is press this contact button. You can nest that under a project. Everyone has a general research project. So if your inquiry is more general, you can always just select that. You can pick a specific product if you're looking for a specific product, or you can skip that question. And then you can let them know exactly the information you're looking for. So whether that's a price quote, technical info, product literature, or certifications, you can select any one of these. Go ahead and click connect. And then you'll have the option to go right over to that conversation. And you can add in a little message if you want to give some more details about your inquiry. You can send attachments back and forth. Really works, similarly to any other like chat or email function. So you can let them know exactly what you're looking for over here. And you can navigate back to those conversations anytime by just hovering over your library and going to your conversations tool. All right, so that is it for my quick little intro. Here's my email there. If you want to learn a little bit more about Acelab, feel free to reach out to me. I'll also drop a calendar link to set up a time to chat in the chat if you would like to do that as well. And then just a few other housekeeping items from me before we get started with the portion of today's AIA course. So we did ask for AIA numbers upon registration. I'm also going to send over a link to a form just in case anybody isn't sure if they included their AIA number there. And if you're not an AIA member, but you just want to ensure that you get a certificate, you can type certificate into the AIA field, and then we'll have a record of that inquiry as well. And then other than that, I just wanted to mention that we're definitely going to have some time at the end today for questions. So please feel free to submit questions to the Q&A during today's webinar. We're going to save some time towards the end so that we can answer those out loud. And we'll also give the opportunity for anyone who wants to ask a question out loud at the end of today's webinar so we can have some more open-ended discussion too. All right, with that, I just want to thank everyone once again for joining today. We really appreciate you coming out for today's presentation. And I will hand it over to Harper to get started with today's course.
Okay, thank you, Bo. Thank you very much. Let me see, pull this up. All right, so how's everybody doing? I know I can't hear anybody right now, but just listening to you, Bo, that was I think that's awesome that what you're doing, because I think that's a really good thing for architects to spend more time designing rather than weeding through all of this information and trying to find the right products and things like that. So this is perfect. So you guys can really focus on what you do best. So that's awesome. So What we're going to be talking about today are the attributes of high performance windows, which I would assume everybody has touched on before and had a little bit of experience with. So if you know some of this, great. If you don't, I hope I can teach you guys something. And I like to learn too. So hopefully in the Q&A after we're done, you can ask some questions, and if I can answer it, great. If I can't, I'll find the answers and get back to you. And that way, it's a two-way. So I'll get started. So what is a high performance window essentially? Well, it's designed to keep, it's a window. Every building is going to need windows in it for the most part. So if you have to design with them, you're going to have to put them in your project. So they might as well be as good as possible. And you want to have the best performance in the windows on various levels. But the number one thing is, they're designed to keep the warmth inside during the winter and cold during the summer. So your mechanical machines, your HVAC and things like this, heating is not running a crazy amount of energy. So they're very, very insulated. They're just really great performing windows. It's not rocket science. They're thermally broken, which is going to be a topic or a term that you're going to hear me say a couple times. So they're super well insulated, they're airtight, and also the glass is going to be properly chosen for the region where they're going to be installed. So these are the major components of it. They're comfortable. You want your interior to be comfortable, essentially. They typically require a multi-point lock system. And to me, this is my favorite part about a high performance window is this multi-point lock system, because with it, you're going to get complete, air leakage is really not going to happen. You're going to have a sash, an operable sash that's just completely secure all the way around it. It's going to suck the sash into the frame, and you're not going to get any air leakage. And that's just for temperature and air leakage, but security, that's a huge component of that, and also for acoustic attributes, that's a huge part. So we'll get into that towards the end. It's a really great component of a high performance window. And they're made to do all the above without compromising your view, your light, or your aesthetics. So with these, if you want to get this big glass, like this job right here is a job we did in Colorado, you want a strong frame material, so such as, say, aluminum, but aluminum is going to be a highly conductive framing material. So how can you slow that, thermal transmittance down? You want to be able to have a high performance window that can have that thermal break that allows you to have the big glass, allows you to use a strong frame like aluminum and still get great numbers. So here we go. So what types of materials can you use in a high performance window? You can use UPVC, wood clad, aluminum, or steel. So UPVC stands for unplasticized polyvinyl chloride. So it's a low maintenance building material. Next is aluminum. It's widely used in buildings because of its intrinsic properties. It's going to be lighter, but still super, super strong. That way you can get that big glass in there. And generally it's corrosion resistant. Next you have wood, which is naturally sustainable. Where we harvest the wood for our windows, it's a well-managed harvest area. We know where the wood is coming from. We know that it was sourced the correct way. The trees are properly grown, so they're going to grow back in the right time frame. So it's already naturally sustainable. Awesome thermal numbers out of this because wood is already naturally insulative. It's not as conductive as metals. So pound for pound, I always like to say wood is, it's going to have the best numbers for the same thickness as another window frame material. So, and then you have wood clad. Wood clad is just going to have that aluminum piece on the outside of your wood frame, and that's just going to help with protect your frame, protect that wood from the elements, whether it be UV rays or water or various things. Next, you're going to have steel, and steel is it's a beautiful window. They're going to be metal, so they are going to conduct heat flow pretty rapidly. However, now high performance, you can have a thermal break in steel. You can still get very good numbers with steel, and it's just a beautiful product to use. So that is a synopsis. We'll go a little bit more in depth. So UPVC is going to have a multi-chamber design. So if you can see on the left there, you see those little pockets. Those are your chambers, and that's going to allow the frame and the sash to give you a little extra space, to give you that width and the depth, and still keep the integrity of your frame. Just still keep that. And then also with UPVC and with these chambers, what you can do to add to the performance of it, you could add a low UValue foam within those chambers. So really you can get great numbers with UPVC. Here at Ikon, we kind of say that's the workhorse because it's a very cost-effective framing material, and it just gets really, really good thermal numbers, really good performance out of a UPVC. So pound for pound, it's a really great product to use, honestly. And if you see in that left photo or image as well, that square is going to be a steel reinforcement bar. So you can get, you're never going to get as large of glass as you would say with aluminum or steel, but you can add strength to UPVC, so you can get larger pieces. Schools these days are starting to design more. They're going to go usually towards UPVC, public education, things like this. If any of you folks work with schools or institutions like this, UPVC is a great way to go. Towns, municipalities are demanding more design out of windows, not just 3x5s all over the place. So bigger glass they want. And this is a great way to achieve that. You can get that with UPVC and still not break the budget. Next, you have aluminum windows. So this is metal. As we've been talking about, metal is already naturally conductive. So it's going to pass that heat. The energy from the outside of the window to the inside, it's gonna travel pretty rapidly if it was just without a thermal break. However, with aluminum, on the extrusions, we can add that thermal break in here. So that makes it the high performance. And that's going to essentially slow down that rate of change for the thermal properties or the thermal transmittance from one side of the window assembly to the other. So aluminum, you're going to have that thermal break in there. It also takes the exact same thing basically as UPVC, where you have those same multi-chambers. You can add the low UValue foams to it and increase your performance levels of an aluminum window. So aluminum is a great framing material. We use it a lot here, and you can do some really cool stuff with it. Go real big on glass, has the strength to take that, and it's a lightweight material for a metal. Next, you have wood. Wood, as I said earlier, naturally it's already sustainable and it's already insulated. You're going to obviously see there's no thermal break. It doesn't need it. It's not like metal. It's not going to transfer that energy as quickly. So you pound for pound, you don't need it like you would with the metal. It's a great building material. There's definitely a niche client that is going to want wood for their windows. Usually it's going to be a little bit warmer. It's going to go into a certain project. If you have a preservation project, or just in general, if you just have that client that likes that wood look, they can stain it, they can paint it. It's nice and warm. They're going to go towards wood, and it's a great material to use. It's beautiful. You can get various different species of wood to give it the aesthetic you want. And then also with wood, you can add that piece of cladding, which is that image that we're seeing or looking at right now. The cladding is going to go on the outside of your window, and that's just going to, you don't want water hitting the window. You don't want it sitting on the window. That's going to cause rot. UV rays just pounding down on it. So you can add that clad to it, and you can paint the clad to whatever you want, so you can reach those aesthetics you need. And it also gives you the protection of your wood window if you choose to go that way. And then last, we have steel. Steel is usually going to be your aesthetic choice. Speaking of niche clients, steel is going to be a very niche client. If they want steel, they want steel. And it's going to have those really thin sight lines. So it's a beautiful, beautiful window. You can have really big glass with it, and it's just going to give you a lot of unencumbered light, a lot of view out of it. And it's just a really beautiful frame material. Everybody, I would assume, has seen a steel windows. And if you haven't, look at many of them, because it's a beautiful piece to have in a project. However, it is a niche. It's generally going to be quite a bit more cost-wise, but you're going to have that certain client that wants it, and you can still hit those thermal numbers that you're trying to hit, because it is going to have that thermal break like you can see in the image. And another thing is that the larger you go, you get most of your insulation out of your glass. So the bigger the glass, the better your performance of the window. And steel, where it's so strong, it can have a big piece of glass in it. So you can actually get pretty good numbers with steel. So this is about the thermal break. And essentially it's just, if you're looking, the image you're looking at is aluminum. That's an extrusion, you can see. And as I'm going to be really redundant to say the same things over and over again, because like right here, you have the extrusion, and I'm being redundant because, you know, the energy is going to flow very quickly through metal. It's very conductive material. So, but you want to use that for your windows to get that aesthetic you want. So how do you help it out? How do you give it what it needs to hit the energy efficiency that you want? And that's through that thermal break. That's literally what it sounds like. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's a insulative material that you stick between the extrusion of the metal to slow down that thermal rate of change from one side of the window to the other. So you'll see right in the middle. And this slide is just going to show you guys, again, not rocket science. The wider you go, the more depth you put in your frame, the bigger you put that thermal break, as you can see from the left to the right, the lower the U-value is going to get. So the bigger the thermal break, the longer it takes for the thermal transmittance to happen, the thermal rate or change to happen. Slower, it slows down that rate from one side of the window to the other. And that's all you're trying to do, is to slow that down, because you can't stop it, but you do want to slow it down. But something that you do want to think about is the bigger the window is, you know, some people don't like that aesthetic. So it's always a constant theme of balancing. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve with your design? What are you trying to achieve with your aesthetic? And also, what are you trying to do with your energy levels and your performance of your window? So it's always a balancing act between the two. That's just a slide of the regions, which I know you guys already know. So this slide is going to talk about your IGU, or your insulated glass unit. So that's going to be your glazing portion of your window assembly. So it's a whole unit. It's going to essentially be different components that make up this unit that are bonded together. Each pane of glass is literally the glass. And generally, you're going to, most of the jobs that we quote are going to be in triple pane. You can get some really great numbers with double, but the cost wise, honestly, triple pane is pretty close to double. It's a little bit more, but for the amount of performance it gives you versus the cost, we almost do everything in triple pane. So you're going to get great numbers out of that. Obviously, more glass, more material that the temperature or the energy has to travel through. So you're getting better value out of that. You're going to have these in between the glass, you're going to have a filling of gas. Every single IGU is going to come with argon to begin with, which is, I believe, 50%, or excuse me, yes, 50% more insulative than regular oxygen or air. And then if you want to boost that up even more, you want to give your IGU more performance, you can add krypton to it, which is another gas that is about 50% more insulative than argon. But again, back to that theme, it's going to come down to cost a little bit. If you want to go krypton, it's going to be a bit more expensive. Generally, you're not going to need it unless you're in a very cold zone or region, maybe up in the mountains or something, or you know. But you have that availability. If you do want to use it, you could add it to it. And then lastly, you're going to have your warm edge spacers, so your low conductivity spacers, and that's just going to slow down the rate of change between the panes of glass where they marry, or the edge of the glass, which we call the psi value. And that's going to, those warm edge spacers are going to be made out of a non-conductive material, which I'm going to talk about in my next slide. And that's just going to slow down that rate of change, again, between the panes of glass. So it's all about slowing down the energy, keeping to a minimum of as much as you can. And you're going to be able to do that with the high performance IGUs. So this slide is just going to show you folks a little bit more about the warm edge spacer, because that's such an important component of your IGU. And like I said, the warm edge spacer is going to be made out of a non-conductive material, and it's going to just slow down the rate of change at the edge of your glass. So from that one pane you see on the left to the other inner pane, it's going to slow down that energy rate of change between those two. And you can see in that bottom left image, on the left, you have a window with traditional spacers. And then on the right, you're going to have warm edge spacers. So it just really insulates the glass and the IGU there. And then another attribute of a warm edge spacer is that it has a thing called desicant in it. And desicant is essentially what you were never supposed to eat when you were younger out of a pharmaceutical bottle or like a food packaging. It's that little packet that they put in packaging, and it basically sucks up moisture. But because of a really large component of a high performance window, and a problem in building or windows in general is moisture and vapor. You don't want that. So what the desicant is going to do, just like those old pharmaceutical packages, it's going to suck up the moisture if you happen to get any between or in that cavity between the panes of glass. It's just going to suck that moisture right out of there. So it's a big hygienic component, because if any kind of vapor or moisture sitting there, it's going to cause it can cause mold, it can cause mildew, it can cause all kinds of things. It can corrode your material, if it's metal sitting there, or if it could cause rot in wood. So this is such a inexpensive component of the assembly that really has a big deal to helping it out. This is just a quick slide to show you guys the old spacers that were made out of the metals, steel and things like this. And now you have a warm edge spacer on the bottom. So it's going to show you that you can, what it does to prevent that transfer of heat from one side of the window to the other. Really does a great job. Next, we're going to be looking at thermal performance. And there's three big things that you have to pay attention to, and those are the UValue, SHGC, and air tightness. These are the huge components of thermal performance of your window assembly. So the UValue is the heat flow conductance, and that's going to be called the UValue. We use that here in the States. And essentially that's going to do, it's going to be a measurement of the change, or how much energy it takes to go from one temperature on one side of the window to the other side of the window. And then we take that value from the center of the glass, from the frame portion of the window, and from the side value, which is, like I said, that part where the two pieces of glazing meets your warm edge spacer, that little edge component there. You take those and you basically get a weighted average, and that's going to give you your U value for your entire window. In Europe, they use watts. Like I said, here in the States, we use BTUs, and that's just a measurement of work, how much work it takes, how much energy it takes to go from one temperature on one side of the window to the other. So you never really have to know that, or you do have to know the U value. You don't know, it's a little bit more in depth if you want to know how they come up with the number, which is important, I do believe. And then the lower the U value, the better. That's all you really want to pay attention to. You want lower U values, better performance, better insulative properties. So U value is super important. Next, you have the SHGC. What is SHGC? It's a solar heat gain coefficient. So solar heat gain coefficient, that's your radiation from the sun. Radiation is a form of energy. So it's essentially, you're going to have windows, they're going to be clear. They're going to let that the radiation come right through the window. What do you want to do with that? And that's your decision. Do you want to, prevent it? Are you having a high-rise building that it's going to be all glass, or a whole, basically a whole wall of glass, floor to wall windows? And you're going to, maybe it's south facing. I don't know, but you're going to want to reflect that. Otherwise, it's going to heat up the interiors, and nobody's going to be comfortable. It's going to be basically impossible to be in that space. So do you want to reflect it? Do you want to put low E or low emissivity films within that to reflect the sun's radiation? Or do you want to do the opposite on the other side of the spectrum? Maybe you're a passive builder and you want to use that the sun's radiation. You want to let that come through your window and heat up your space during the day. That way, in the wintertime, it's at night, it's releasing that energy in the room, and it's nice and warm, and you don't have to have your energy, your heater on all day long, pumping energy into the place or sucking up energy. Is that what you want to do with it? So which side do you want to go? Do you want to reflect the sun's radiation, or do you want to use it? And this is something that you can do with SHGC or low emissivity films that can go on your window or in your window. So something to pay attention to is SHGC. And next, the other component of that we want to pay attention to is the multi-point lock system. So the multi-point lock system, like I said in the beginning of this talk, was, I think this is such a huge component of a high performance tilt and swing, in particular Ikon style window, is that the multi-point lock system. I'll skip right to the next one because you guys can get a better look. All around the sash, you're going to have all those literally multi-points, all those locking systems that when you turn the handle, it's essentially, when you close the handle, I should say, it's going to suck the sash, the operable sash, right into the gasket, which is going to suck into the frame. So, and you're going to have that in equilibrium all around the perimeter of your operable sash. So you're not going to get that with a double hung. You're not going to get that with a plain casement. You really want to tilt and swing with a multi-point lock system. And it's just, I can't stress this enough, how much of a difference this one single component can make with your window. And once you feel the difference, if you haven't ever, and once you play around with these types of windows, you can instantly feel the difference and really comprehend it instantly, what a difference it does to the energy. You're not going to have air leakage at all. You're not going to have drafts for a comfortability standpoint. Safety wise, it's going to be so much more difficult for intruders to break in to a window that is built like this, because they just don't have as many points where they can pry into, because it's going to be tight all around the sash. Acoustically, it's not going to let that sound energy come through the window. So that multi-point lock system is a phenomenal piece of a high performance window. And this is just a slide to kind of show you guys. On the left, you would have that multi-point lock system, high performance window. This way you can control your environment. You can control where you want that air coming in from, and then it can you can filter it, and then it can also exhaust it properly in a controlled way if that's what you want to do. Whereas on the right, you're seeing that there's just weak points all through the fenestration products. You're getting drafts, you're getting pollution coming in. You just don't have control of your space. You don't have control because you have air leakage coming in all over the place. So it makes a huge difference for high performance building. And next we have your acoustic performance. Again, being redundant, it's kind of all these same components that I've kind of talked about this entire presentation. They kind of do the same thing. They're slowing down energy essentially, and acoustic energy, just like a temperature, excuse me, when you add those panes of glass to it, extra panes of glass, when you have that thicker frame or better built frame, when you have those brakes, when you have those gaskets, this is going to really help your acoustic levels. So nowadays, like I said earlier about schools or just buildings in general, people's homes, you want to have an enhanced environment. You don't want to be stressed. You have enough stress. We all do. You don't want low frequency acoustics coming in. You don't want, there's cars honking outside if you're in a city like we are. You got people outside, cars going everywhere, planes, all kinds of things going, sirens. Once you see these windows, or don't see them, but once you can actually be in a room that has a high performance window and the window's closed, almost anything can be going on outside and you can barely hear it. So this is going to really enhance your space. And I can't stress that enough, to, again, really try to put yourself around these windows to be able to see what they can do, because this is honestly a game changer for helping you have a peace of mind. And then really lastly, higher performing windows. This is just an extra or last slide about comfort. So even if your window is completely tight and there's no air leakage going on, if it's not built properly and it doesn't have those proper components within the assembly to slow down that temperature change, what's going to happen is the cold pane of your exterior is going to travel, that temperature drop is going to travel, and the interior pane is going to also cool off. So if your room is, you have your heater on, it's going nicely, it's going to hit that pane of glass, it's going to hit that window, it's going to cool off quickly, and it's going to basically create a convection current. So it's going to feel very cold, or it's going to feel like there's a draft in the room, even if there is no air leakage whatsoever going on. So That's a huge component. And this last slide was passed. So thank you very much for listening. I always like to say it's really not rocket science. You want two things after talking to, kind of trying to figure out what people want. It's two things. I like to say they want sexy windows and beautiful aesthetics, and they want comfortable. They want to be really comfortable in their space. They want to be able to not feel a draft, to not feel like it's super uncomfortable. Like the temperature, they put it at one temperature and then it changes to a different. So the two things you want is to look great and to also feel great, and you're going to get that from a high performance window that you just can't get from other windows. So thank you very much for listening, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Harper. Looks like we've got some questions. I want to just send another reminder to folks. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A. You can also raise your hand if you would like to ask your question out loud. You don't have to turn your video on, so don't be afraid to do it. I promise it'll be fine. But yeah, we love to get folks talking. So if you have a question that feels easier to ask out loud, feel free to raise your hand and I will unmute you so that you can ask that. All right, let's start off with some of the questions that are in the Q&A. So first we've got how to make windows soundproof when we reside astride busy roads or noisy industrial areas. Are double glazed windows good enough for this purpose?
It depends. Double glaze can hit those, or help you out with the sound reduction. You're never going to be soundproof. I'd like to tell people, like, a lot of people will come up and say, how do you make your window sound? You can't make it soundproof. It's just impossible. But you can slow it down to such a minimum that it seems like it's soundproof. And double glaze, you can get some really, you can do great things with it. Triple glaze, honestly, is if you really have to hit a certain number, OITC number, triple glaze is the way to go. And also you can add in a film in between the panes of glass. Well, so if you have a pane of glass, essentially what it is, it's an optically clear frame. So, or excuse me, film. So they're going to put it, and then the pane of glass basically will sandwich that optically clear film. So you're not going to be able to. It's going to not. What word am I trying to use? It's not going to obstruct your view whatsoever. You're not even going to know it's there, but it will help with thermal properties and in particular sound. That's one thing you can add to your glazing. To help it out. It's a fraction of the cost of the whole assembly, and it's going to really help out your windows a lot for
Awesome.
sound. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next one from Tanner. Does adding a desicant warm edge spacer to the cavity of the IGU make it more difficult to detect if there's a leak in the perimeter of the IGU seals? IGUs that broken seals or leaks often develop condensation, which is a very clear indicator that it should probably be replaced with one, since most of the argon has probably escaped and is no longer efficient.
Couple different questions there. So, or statements, yes. So does adding desicant to warmer spacer of the cavity of the IGU make it more difficult to detect? It could. That's something you'd have to go by a case basis, I would think. But yeah, it could. If you can't see the moisture, then you might not know. There's a problem. Generally, though, the gaskets they're built. They're essentially, it's a rubber gasket, and they're designed. The material that's made with is essentially going to be. They're made for both warm environments. When it gets really hot, they'll take it, and when it gets really cold, which will usually take gaskets and make them brittle, it won't do that. So these are really great gaskets that can take all these fluctuations in temperature, and they're very long lasting. So they can really sustain quite a bit. So they shouldn't really go bad quickly. But that's something you want to pay attention. You just want to really pay attention and look over your gaskets on a normal annual maintenance, or even more than that, just to you can kind of tell when something's going or you're having problems.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, next up from Eric. It seems like metal spacer bars are still fairly common. If the spacer bars look metallic, does that mean it's missing the desiccant you referred to?
No, a lot of they might not actually be metal spacers. A lot of spacers are they're they look metallic, but that's just the finishing on them. So they come in what's titanium look. So unless that's something you want to be clear on your design process, is to state and specify what color you want your warm edge spacers. We generally tell everybody to go black because your eye will not catch it. It'll kind of get lost in the IGU. So we tell everybody if go black. That's usually the way to go. But a lot of people still use titanium, and it doesn't mean that your spacer is metal. It just means that it's finished in that look. And the desiccant's really it's within. So if this is the perimeter of your warm edge spacer, it's very thin, and it's essentially like a tube. And within that is the desiccant. So it really has nothing to do with the desiccant there. Mm-hmm. You're not going to lose desiccant. It's going to stay in there. You don't lose it.
Awesome. All right. Next up from Jim, how do Ikon windows pricing compare to other brands of windows?
We blow everybody out of the water.
Good answer.
No, we have a very high value product, and we're proud of that. We truly do believe in our quality of our product. And we truly do believe that just going cost wise is a race to the bottom. So, that we're not going to hit every single project out there, and we don't want to. We know our market and we know the quality of our product. So we're not going to go to the bottom. However, we believe we are very competitive, and I know we're very competitive because I see other manufacturers quote, and we're right there with them. And we believe provide a really high quality product, and then charge a fair price for it. And we, we're in such communication with everybody. This is something that can always be negotiated. It's not a set price. It's not like you're going to the grocery store and picking something out. And we can talk, we can add things, take things away. This is what I ask you as architects to do, is to work with us, communicate what your needs are, what the scope is of the project, how we can play around with it, how we can tweak it. And, we're pretty laid back here. We just want to figure it out. We want to talk with you guys, and, there's no secrets. If we can make it work, great. If we can't, then maybe we'll make the next project work. It's really not too hard.
Awesome. Jim says, of course. Great. All right. From Richard, what approximate percentage cost per installed window unit does triple glazed add?
I would say 10% to the whole project.
10%. Cool.
Extra. So for 10% more in cost to get the amount of performance that you get extra with that extra piece of glass, then to me, it's almost, always do it. However, some jobs, they really truly do not need it. Maybe they're in Southern California, and they just don't need triple glazing. So that's one thing. But yep.
Awesome. All right, it looks like that was our last question for now. So just want to give everyone another reminder to submit a question if you have one. Also, I saw something come up about certificates. So again, that AIA form, if you don't have an AIA number and you want to just type certificate into the field there, you can do that. And while we're waiting to see if anyone else has some questions, I just noticed my colleague Arman is here. So I'd love to give Arman a few minutes just to let you guys know about some other programs that we have going on at Acelab, and introduce a little bit of the work that he's been doing with our team to help out architects with specifications.
And I wanted to say, sorry, Bo, I just wanted to say thanks everybody for asking the question.
Yeah, showing up. Thank you everyone for the questions. And again, we still have some time. So if anything else comes up, if anyone else has questions, please feel free to submit them. Oh, we just got one more. So let's get to that first before we let Arman have a few minutes.
UPVC used for resident, totally. Yep. There's,
for residential.
Yeah. It definitely is. It's a workhorse, like I said a little bit earlier. You're going to get for cost wise, it's a really a great cost, and you really do get great thermal numbers, all performance numbers out of UPVC is a great material to use, honestly.
Awesome. All right. So again, we still have time, so feel free to submit more questions, and thank you to everyone who has done that thus far. And real quick, while we have Armand here, I just wanted to give him a few minutes to chat about some of the stuff that we've got going on at Acelab before we let y'all go today.
Thanks so much, Bo and Harper. That was really, really insightful. I'm licensed, so I'm also picking up my credits as well as I'm listening to this, and it's always really helpful to get this level of depth from manufacturers so we can keep understanding how to spec these products appropriately. And kind of on that note, today, well, actually, first, I'm Armand, and I'm a licensed architect here in New York City. And now I'm Acelab's Director of Architectural Partnerships, working on a program called the Specification Advisory Program that I'd like to talk about today. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share a little presentation we can look at. Do you mind if I take over the screen?
No, sorry. Let me get it. There you go.
No, I appreciate it.
I was off to lunch, figuratively and literally.
You all can see my screen, all right?
Yep, yeah, we can see it.
Right. Hi, everybody. So we've been working, specifically me, working on this Specification Advisory Program. And the reason I wanted to bring it up today is we're offering this kind of exclusively to our webinar attendees and those that are within our Acelab network at the moment, before we open it to the larger audience of Acelab users. Effectively, the way that we're thinking of this program is to address a lot of the things that we struggle with around specifications, at least at architecture firms. In my experience, it's always been very challenging to find the right manufacturer, the right fit for the projects we're working on, especially because it's incredibly challenging to stay abreast of all of the manufacturers across all the various product categories that we often work with on these different projects. And then finally, a lot of our time often gets put around doing the research, looking through websites, rather than really focusing in on making smart and informed design decisions, which is in the end what we love doing as architects. And so the Specification Advisory Program is a program where we provide you hands-on support and education to save you time and then give you more space to make optimum product selections. And so that's something we'd be able to provide you assistance with, but overall reduce the amount of time and effort you're putting into this as well. Some of the ways we do achieve this kind of works across all of the design phases. And so whether you're thinking about it as early as SD, we provide assistance and overall work on design material research, early stage locking in big design decisions for your manufacturers. And then working through into DD, we can really help produce product substitutions, recommendation reports to connect you with smart manufacturers in our network, including Ikon windows. And then from that point forward, CDs into bidding, even during construction, we could really, really provide our network and our expertise, especially with some of the incredibly smart material experts at Acelab with value engineering studies. And even within that, just optimizing our different products, whether it is to improve lead time, improve the aesthetics, or just when there are some availability issues, we can be really effective in those areas. And that's within the project scope. If we were to look beyond the project scope, areas we can also help you with are in helping develop that material library, those standards that often during project times, we can't find time to work on. And so Acelab takes on that work to build out that firm specification library that you can start to pull from in your next projects. And then finally, if we really want to get a bit more niche, we can set up more specific lunch and learns with manufacturers like Ikon and really get to core topics that are specific to your project or your market sector for your firm. And so kind of across the board, we have experts in-house. I think I'll be the primary individual working with you on a regular basis. So Bo is always available. We have a ton of licensed architects at Acelab, and then Andre is our material expert who can really answer every single question across product categories. So in short, we take all that information from your team. We set up a place where we can begin to understand what your performance criteria are for your project, and then start work sessions where we can understand what you're working on, what are the needs. For example, you're looking for a specific window. that hits a certain view value at this performance criteria, and then we can go out, research the different product lines, and provide you some options.
You really only need one. Sorry
That
to
is true.
interrupt you. You only need one though. But
And Ikon definitely comes up often in these areas. But really the idea is to make sure that you're seeing all of what's possible in the market across all product categories. And we can help reduce the kind of information analysis paralysis that you might have to go through to get to a decision. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. I think we can drop my link in the chat if we want to talk. Feel free to schedule a meeting either to learn more or to set up your first work session with Acelab. And that's it for me. Thanks so much for letting me join, Bo. I'll drop my link in the chat so anyone can sign up.
Actually, in there already. So yeah, in the chat, you're going to see a link to sign up for a meeting with Arman. I also sent a link to Ikon's page on Acelab. So if you do have any follow-up questions that come up for you today after today's webinar, please feel free to head to that link. You can submit your inquiries there, type out a message to them. It's a great way to get in touch with all of the experts at Ikon Windows. And you can also explore all of their products right from that page as well. So we've got a bunch of product data available on Acelab. And since we actually have a few more moments, I'll show you how you can also save some of Ikon's products and be able to view that product data, you know, apples to apples with other products as well. Real quick, looks like we're just getting thank yous in the Q&A. But again, feel free to submit a question if you've got a question. We've still got a few moments left, so we're happy to get to those today. But yeah, just want to show folks some other benefits of using Acelab to explore manufacturers like Ikon. So again, to get to this page, you can just type the name of any manufacturer into that search bar up here. Here's that contact button. So if you have some questions after today's webinar, this is a great way to get in touch with the Ikon team. And then scrolling down, you can also explore their products right from this page. And hovering over them, you can see this little shortlist button starts to come up. So when you want to save a product on Acelab, you can save it either to your general product library or to any of your projects. You can also start a new project right from this page. So it's pretty easy to get yourself set up, even if you haven't, you know, uploaded all your projects yet. I'm going to go ahead and save a few of Ikon Windows products to my product library, just so you can see how that looks and where those live. And you can see Ikon's got a ton of great products here. I'll open up one of their product pages so that you can also see how that looks with a little bit more information. So once you open up a product page, you get some more imagery, you get an overview of the key product details. Again, you can reach out to Ikon right from this page, and you can also save that product right from here as well. Everybody has a general research project too, as I mentioned earlier. So if you're just saving things for kind of your general research, you can always save it there. And then scrolling down, you get an overview of more product data, compositions that are available, and even some downloads as well. So I'm going to head over to my library. So here's kind of where all of your stuff lives on Acelab, whether that's your projects, products that you've saved, searches that you've done, or conversations that you're having. So I'm going to jump over to my products. This is where I'm saving all my kind of general products. So you can see I've got a bunch of exterior doors and windows here. I'm going to open up this exterior door shortlist. So I'm going to go ahead and click compare. And here I've got an overview of all of the products that I've saved. So I've got my Ikon windows that I just clicked that button, and now it's saved for future use. I can always come back to this and request more information. Can even upload supporting documents here. So if you start a conversation with Ikon and you receive, you know, some pricing sets, you receive some, you know, details from them, and you want to save that along with all of the product data that Acelab has available, you can upload those documents right here. You can add in comments, so you can, you know, save some of the information that you have been discovering about these products. And then scrolling down, you've got that overview of key product details, product descriptions, design options, compositions, hardware that's available. So you can, you know, go through and request data for anything that's missing as well. So if you want to get some more information about any of these categories, you can do that. We've got performance data, and all of this is really, you know, a great way to start saving product data into your projects and, you know, not have to kind of download things and come back to project files. It's all incorporated into your project library. So you can head over to your project library just by clicking on projects here. Here you can see an overview of all the projects that you've got. And then again, to get back to your conversations, you can just go over to your conversations. and you can open up that conversation with Ikon Windows and communicate with them directly over here. You'll receive an email notification anytime you get a new message, so you don't have to like remember to always be checking back on Acelab. You'll always get pinged when you've got a new message over here as well. All right, so with that, put in one last call for any questions if folks have them now. If not, you definitely know how to get in touch with Ikon after today's webinar. And if there's nothing else, let me check this Q&A. Yeah, it looks like just thank yous in the Q&A. So I want to thank everyone once again for coming out today. And we really appreciate your attendance and your engagement and for asking so many insightful questions. And yeah, if there's anything else that we can do for you, feel free to use any of the links that we shared over in the webinar chat to get in touch with Ikon or to get in touch with Acelab. All right. And thank you, Harper, again, for such a great presentation. And
yeah, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Cool. Hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
You too. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Bye.
Bye-bye.